we're looking at the guillotine or noose chokes, as I like to refer to them as. We're going to look now at what I call an inside noose. It's a little different from the one I just showed you, which I call an outside noose because his head is outside. With this one, I'm going to put his head in the center of me. This one isn't taught as often, but I like it a little better. I think it's harder for the guy to get out, and it takes less power. It really is devastating if you get good at it, and it can be a faster, more devastating choke. So I think it's better for self-defense, and a lot of people don't teach it as commonly for whatever reason. The setups are all the same. Anytime I get his head around shoulder level or lower, I can do this one. Now, with this one, we started by grabbing his chin. The difference is, I don't want to pull his head into my armpit like this. I want to get his head here, right in the center of my lower abdomen, okay? So this will happen because maybe, I snap him down and then I move him here. Once he's here, you just have to cover his head. I'm gonna give you a little space here right now so we can see, but when it comes time to choke, I wanna make sure I'm like this. Why? Because my hips and chest are gonna push on his head this way while my arms are pulling up. So you've got a squeezing action that's a lot tighter than just your arm power for the regular guillotine, powered by the hips as well, but basically it's the arm doing most of the work. In this case, I'm going to push in with my hips and pull up with my hands like this. This is really a fast, nasty choke, and with him caught here in that same 90 degree to the ground, and on top of that, his head being pushed back, it's really, really devastating. No matter how strong a person is, once his head is bent down like this, he's just going to be driving into his own neck. He's going to be making his spine bend. So the hard part will be getting a big, huge guy in this position. But once he's here, it's pretty easy to choke him out compared to trying to hit him and strike him. So let's look at some of the different grips. The simplest one, which we can do right from a chin grab, is simply stack your other hand over top. Okay? So when I've got him here, I just want to make sure I squeeze my elbows in and pull my hands up and push in. Okay, that's really, and it's right on the trachea, and he's being choked out quickly. Now, a slightly tighter modification of that is to grab his chin with the second hand as well. So instead of just grabbing my own hand like this, I can actually grab the chin here. It's not much different, but it allows me to squeeze my elbows in a little tighter. Remember, I want my elbows like this, right against the sides of his head, so that there's no side-to-side motion, okay? So I'm not just pulling up here. You see all the space between my arms? He could put a hand through there. Yeah, and that could possibly stop the choke. So I want to make sure I'm always squeezing my elbows like this, okay? In this case, I'm going to grab his chin, I'm going to stack my other hand, I'm going to squeeze my elbows right here, and then I lift up with my hips, okay? That one drives the bones right into his trachea, and he's going to go unconscious pretty quick. The only other grip that I like to use from here is to have a palm-to-palm grip. The beauty of this is it's hard for him to pull your hands apart. Remember, on the street, he can grab your fingers. And like we talked about, it's not that big a deal unless he really gets a hold and starts breaking them, but it's going to peel your hands off if you're not careful. And that's one of the instinctive things that a person will do. So with this grip, I lock my hands like this, or with the 3-finger grip, and I put the bone edge here. This makes my fingers pretty tight, so while he's trying to pry my fingers off here, I can keep them together and do the same kind of choke. So again, I'm just squeezing really tight like this, keeping everything together, hooking this underneath his chin, and I pull up and press in. All right, really, really devastating. He's going to be unconscious in probably less than 10 seconds with a kind of choke like this. All right, now one variation that's really, really useful and makes it even more powerful is to use a vertical surface. Remember, in the real world, in an urban environment, vertical surfaces are everywhere. Walls, the sides of cars, trees. So in this case, I can use any of the grips that we talked about, but if I'm able to get his hips into the wall, he's not going anywhere. And now I'm piling up his spine like an accordion here. You see how I'm pushing my hips in? This is the important thing. Watch what I'm doing with my hips. I base out wide, I go in here, and I push in and up. At that moment, when he's tapping, my elbows are actually touching my own ribs, and I'm squeezing them in like this. That way there's no side-to-side motion. All right? Now, a lot of people talk about the guy's going to hit you in the groin, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Once again, this is really only talked about by people who've never used this in a real fight, who don't realize how hardwired your brain is to breathe. When you're setting the choke up, there's always a danger that the guy can hit you in the groin. You know, when you're in this phase here, he could be swinging at your groin. But the first thing you have to realize is getting hit in the groin from this position, number one, is not a fight ender. Only people who've never been hit in the groin and have never kicked, punched, or slapped somebody in the groin in a real fight think that it's a fight stopper. Only on television do people fall down and do the funky chicken because somebody kicked them in the groin. I've literally seen dozens and dozens of people kicked in the groin in real fights. I've been there, I've done it. And to this day, not one person has ever fallen down, okay? Is it possible that you could have one of your testicles injured, something like that? Yes, it is, but statistically, it's very, very rare. So rare, in fact, that you can't build it into your self-defense system. You can't rely on it. So what will instinctively happen, no matter what the guy tells you, oh, I'm gonna pull his chest hairs out, or I'm gonna grab his groin and twist him right off. As soon as you start doing this, you go ahead and hit me in the groin. Okay, and I'm trying to be as gentle as I can. What happens is his hands are gonna go right to his neck as soon as you put on the pressure. So what took me about 3 seconds to do on camera, when you crank it in fast, it's gonna take about 1 second, okay? That's the first thing. Secondly, even if he's able to, I'm able to sprawl out here. It makes it more difficult. Or I can turn sideways, Again, this isn't theory. I've done this many times in real confrontations, and to this day, I've still got all my testicles. No one's ever hit me there. It really is more of a theoretical problem than a practical one. But it's something you may want to be aware of. But once he's bent over like this, it's hard for him to reach you. He's got no power. Really not much he can do, all right? Now, if you are concerned about that and you want to be able to stretch out as far as you can, I'm going to show you one more series of noose chokes.